If you never had jackfruit tacos before, you're missing out. They're juicy, flavorful, and they have that perfectly pulled meat texture. And they're completely plant-based. It's the perfect taco filling. And the best part, it's super easy to make. Culinary art people, take notes. Here's what I'm gonna use to make the taco. So let's get on to it. Alright, breaking down this jackfruit for some tacos. If you've never worked with jackfruit before, don't worry, it's easier than it looks. Jackfruit has a tough outer skin, so cut down firmly. So therefore, I'm cutting large portions at a time to make it easier, instead of fighting with the entire jackfruit. The way jackfruit is structured, you can break it apart like this. So you'll notice that there's a lot of tough fibrous strands that's like sticking onto these pods of jackfruit, and I don't want to eat those. They're way too tough. All I want is the yellow jackfruit pods. So once I pluck all of these strands off, these strands are super tough and chewy, so I really like to take my time and make sure that they're all gone. And as you can see, there's still a lot stuck on there. So I'll keep going until all of these are cleaned up, and we'll move on to the next step. Now that the pods are all cleaned up, I'm going to start taking out the seeds. So after breaking this one apart, I prefer to deseed them, because each of these pods have a smooth sort of big seed in there, and they can just pop out with a little squeeze. These has gotta be one of the prettiest fruits. Here are our seedless pods looking like a bowl of yellow flower rose petals. So now that the seeds are out, I'm slicing each pod individually into little strips to get that shredded texture, sort of like pulled pork or shredded chicken. I'm also slicing this into thin slices, because the thinner they are, the more they'll break up once you cook them, giving them that even more of a texture that we're looking for. So here it is. Just look. Now it's time to cut this onion. Now I'm adding onion. We want to remove that papery skin so that we can work with the fresh onion. I'm cutting it lengthwise down the middle and across so that it can be diced, and I'm setting that aside to add to the tacos for later. Then I'm cutting the other half of the onion the long way so that it can help with the flavor and texture when I sear it up in the skillet. I added to the bowl of jackfruit just like that. Look at the beautiful combination of colors. Now that I diced half of the onion, I'm adding it straight into the condiment bowl for later when the tacos are done. Next up, we've got a tomato. I'm gonna dice this for the condiment bowl as well, because just like the white onions, it's perfect to add to our tacos for later. Of course, I chose to dice it. My method is slice it down the long way, the middle, to give it that cubed effect. After they're sliced and diced, I add them right into the condiment bowl. Now it's time to add a fresh pop of flavor with green onions. Trimmed off the roots and wilted bits to make sure I'm using the best part. Next, I slice the onion lengthwise. Once I have these long strips, I then cut across to create rounds. Now it's time to add these fresh green onions into our condiment bowl. We're bringing a burst of green color, nice and fresh. Alright, now we're moving on to the cilantro. I gave them a quick wash or rinse under cold water so that I would remove any grit that was left on there. Pat them dry with the napkin and put them on that chopping board and get to chopping. Then I add them into the condiment bowl along with the green onion. Next up, the green bell pepper. First, I gave it a quick rinse. Then I start by cutting it in half so that I have a flat surface to work with. Next, I cut lengthwise so that I can just dice them right along. Also, slicing in half allowed me to easily remove the core and the seeds. I made me some small even cubes and I'm just going over it to dice them into even smaller little chunks. Finally, I'm adding these chopped bell peppers right along into the condiment bowl. Now it's time to add a fresh crunch with lettuce. But you can use a lettuce of your choice. I've already washed and dried the leaves. Now that they're chopped, this lettuce will add a fresh crisp to our condiment bowl. Now it's time to turn up the heat with our pepper. I'm using a jalapeno today, but feel free to adjust based on what you like. Start by giving your pepper a quick rinse, place on the board, and slice the ends away. I chose to remove all of the seeds so that it can be a milder kick, and then I add them into the chopping board along with the seeds so that we can know exactly what it is, no mistaking it for the bell peppers. Next up, we heat our pan over medium heat. Add a generous amount of olive oil. Next, it's time for the white onions. I'm adding them straight into the pan. When they're soft and fragrant, it's time to add some garlic in there. And after it caramelizes nicely, I dump my jackfruit into the pan, give it a good mix, and have it to steam with a lid on for a while. When it's nice and soft, I add in some chili powder, some smoked paprika, and some ground cumin. I go in with a bit of vegetable broth so that it can be nice and juicy. And I add a little bit of salt to taste. And some oregano. Then I do onion powder. I'm adding garlic powder. And I'm mixing it in. Then I'm adding some lemon juice as well, just to pull everything together. And I'll let it just sort of sit there and steam again, let it soak up all the flavors. Some of the moisture escapes, so I'm going back in there with a little vegetable broth. Cover with the lid and let it simmer on low while we start on our tortillas. You'll need soft, warm tortillas that serve as the ideal canvas for all of these amazing flavors. Take your tortilla, lie it on a pan, and you'll let it warm up for about 30 seconds. Watch as the little brown start to form, and that's a sign that it's just right. Flip it over and heat the other side, and in just a minute, you've got tortillas that's perfectly pliable with a nice toasty flavor. Alright, now it's taco time. Let's hook it up, starting with our star ingredient, the jackfruit. First, grab one of these soft, warm tortillas. Time to put some freshness and a little bit of delicious, flavorful kick on there with this tomato salsa. Now let's add a little bit of crunch to our taco with the lettuce. I'm putting a couple of leaves of the spinach on there, adding some bell peppers, white onions, green onions, some tomatoes, some cilantro, okay, a little bit of extra jackfruit. Now I'm preparing a taco using a crispy hard shell, and I'm hooking it up the same old way. Gently sprinkle the seasoned jackfruit into the shell. The combination of the jackfruit and the tangy salsa, crisp lettuce encased in a crunchy shell. It creates a symphony of textures. and flavors that's irresistible. So whether you prefer a soft shell or a hard shelled taco, these flavors are seriously irresistible, versatile, and delicious. This is what you call $32 tacos. Now let's prepare the avocado to add a creamy element to our dish. I selected me a ripe avocado, yielding me slightly to gentle pressure. I put my avocado right there on that plate. The avocado is going to enhance the richness and the texture of this dish, your dish, and it provides a delightful contrast to our ingredients. Just have a look. Take a look at this. Fire. This joint right here. Ooh, I'm about to go ham. Close up. Feast your eyes on this delectable jackfruit tacos. Each one is a masterpiece of flavors and textures, starting with the tender seasoned jackfruit for a healthier choice. Jackfruit. On top, we added a generous spoonful of salsa. The bright colors of the onions, cilantro adds a visual appeal. If you're willing to give this a try, go ahead and tell me what you think. Give me some feedback. Enjoying the content? Don't forget to like and subscribe.